What is going on, grinders? It's Chief. We are in the building. It is morning. It is the morning grind. It's Monday, June 17th, 2024. I am here. My good friend TJ Zwarych is here. And we are here to talk some MLB action. TJ, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. I had a very good first Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day to all the dads in the chat right now and listening on to the Morning Grind podcast the next day. It was an enjoyable day. Lots of good food. And I am now very tired, but still happy to break down this 9-game slate with you, my friend.
Absolutely. Same here. Shout out to all the fathers, man. Happy Father's Day, obviously, to you guys. Father's Day is a little bit more watered down than Mother's Day, in my opinion. And it's also not my opinion, it's a fact. But you guys, we are important too. We're there for our kids. We're trying to show them the way, if you will, TJ. We're changing diapers too. We're making meals. We're putting hair in ponytails if you got girls like I do. And I'm not great at ponytails. So let me just, for the record, I'm not great. But listen, all the dads out there, we appreciate you. We love you. And you have not been crushed. All right, here we go. We're hopping right in this thing, TJ. We got a nice little 9-game slate. Kicking off on DraftKings at 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Opening this thing up, we've got the St. Louis Cardinals. We've got the Miami Marlins. We've got Sonny Gray. We've got Braxton Garrett. Sonny Gray, a minus 160 favorite, in which he should be in Miami. How are we feeling about Sonny Gray?
It's a great pitcher's park. He is the top 1 or 2 pitcher on the slate. And so got to be very interested in Sonny Gray today. I don't think he is my top guy up top in terms of the spend ups today, but I think he's probably number 2. It's a great matchup going against Miami, one of the very best pitchers parks in all of baseball. I'm going to have a lot of interest in Sonny Gray. It's just going to be about whether or not I can afford him.
Yeah, one of the things too about Sonny Gray is, look, man, the K rate has been phenomenal this season. And the Miami Marlins, while they've been bad, TJ, generally on paper, they also don't hit for a lot of power. So this should be a spot where Sonny Gray can absolutely walk into this ballpark and dominate. We saw him against Pittsburgh in the last start, and I'm using Pittsburgh as a reference here. 7 innings pitched. We hadn't seen him go that deep yet. That was in 84 pitches, though, very efficient. 9 Ks. I'm not saying he's going 7 innings, 9 Ks, but what I am saying, TJ, is the strikeout should be there and the run prevention should be there because this team doesn't hit for a lot of power. So really like Sonny Gray today at 10-5. On the other side, we got Braxton Garrett. He's 7,200. How are we feeling about Braxton Garrett?
Probably no Braxton Garrett for me on this slate. He's had some games where he's put up some pretty solid scores, but I just don't think I need it. Not a guy who strikes out a ton of players, and St. Louis is a lot better than they were earlier in the season. I'm probably not getting any Braxton Garrett. He's just not that good.
Yeah, same here. Any St. Louis bats?
Yeah, I do typically like targeting righties against St. Louis more than the lefties, but Braxton Garrett is not somebody we're scared of, and they're so wildly cheap. They're a stack that you can get to if you're wanting to double pay up at pitcher tonight. So maybe Wynn leading off. Obviously, Goldschmidt and Arenado have been trash, but they're still cheap. Gorman in the lefty doesn't bother me whatsoever. So I do think this team they're not really exciting. It's not a good hitter's park, but I think they're a viable cheap stack for if you're wanting to go Gray and Skeens tonight.
Gray and Skeens. Listen, I think we're going to talk about Paul Skeens here very soon, TJ. I do think the St. Louis bats are able to hang a few on Braxton Garrett. He's not someone we're afraid of, like you mentioned. So even though it's a hitter's park, they have been hitting better. Shout out to Derek and his fandom with St. Louis. Obviously, I know he can attest to the fact that early this season they were atrocious, but they definitely have picked it up a little bit at the plate. On the other side, we've got the Miami Marlins. TJ, I'm assuming we don't want to play any Marlins today. I know I don't. On a 9-game slate, how are you feeling about the Marlins?
Yeah, I will be playing 0 Miami Marlins on this slate, even if I run out 150 lineups, which I think there's a good chance that I will. They will not include any Miami Marlins.
All right, there you have it, folks. That's St. Louis and Miami. Moving right along, we've got the Cincinnati Reds, we've got the Pittsburgh Pirates. And speaking of Paul Skeens, we are now talking about Paul Skeens. We've seen him best on FanDuel as a minus 188 favorite, around minus 195 everywhere else. He's facing off against Mr. Spears. Make sure I get that pronunciation correct. I'm not sure which one it is right now. But let's go with Spears for the time being. And then if it Spires, we'll definitely correct it by the time he comes around again, if he makes it to another start. We've got Spears on the other side here. They're in Pittsburgh. How are we feeling about Spires against the Pittsburgh Pirates?
I actually think he's in play here. He's been kind of stretched out enough now. Got up to 90 pitches last game, and he's been impressive when he's been out there. Showed not a ton of strikeouts. Last game was the first that he actually put up a ton of Ks, but 6,600, good pitcher's park. I actually think he's somewhat viable as an SP2.
All right, we've got TJ in on Carson, Spires, one of the two. We've got him in at that 6,600 number. We're going to go ahead and go to the other side of this game, and that's Paul Skeens. I think we will all agree that Paul Skeens has been electric. I think we will also agree, TJ, that there are some strikeouts in this Cincinnati lineup for sure. What are we doing with Skeens today at 9,500? Prices come up a little bit, but the skills, at least so far, seem to justify the price increase.
9,500 is still far too cheap. This guy should be 10-8. And so Paul Skeens is the top pitcher on the slate. I'm debating having him in 100% of my lineups. Guy went 100 pitches about 5 games ago, 93, 96, 93, 103. So as long as he's pitching well, they will give him the leash. I'm all aboard the Paul Skeens train against the Cincinnati team that does strike out, but I typically don't like pitching against them because they got that good home ballpark, but big ballpark downgrade for them. Skeens is my top pitcher on the slate, and I would genuinely considering just hitting the lock button.
Absolutely. TJ, see, that's one thing I will say about my brother TJ up in Saskatoon, by the way. We're never afraid to hit the lock button. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, we are hoping that it pays off, TJ. Love the Spears call, though. Not Spears, excuse me, Skeens call. And I think most will agree that he's definitely a tip-top option on this slate at 9,500. Going back to the other side of this game, in terms of the bats with Cincinnati, how are you feeling about the bats here? Because Skeens, look, does Skeens give up a run or two today? Maybe. But does this team score 10? I don't think so, TJ. How are you feeling about the Reds?
No, I can't do it. There's not any big discounts here for them having the park downgrade, and they're facing one of the best pitchers in baseball. They're going to get the full-on X for me, unless, maybe I just decided to include Ellie Delacruz as a one-off, but I highly doubt it.
All right. So TJ's pretty much out on the Cincinnati Reds. I'm mostly out on the Reds as well. What I will say is I don't mind Ellie, but, we just have to understand that Ellie may strike out 3 times in this game for what it's worth. But, if you're telling me, Chief, I just feel like I want to get some Ellie for him to run a little bit. Okay, whatever. No problem, right? I'm not going to convince you of that. But this offense as a whole, I think, is definitely not where we want to plant our flags today. On the other side, we've got the Pittsburgh offense facing off against Mr. Spires. I keep saying both because I want to make sure I get it right. And TJ, it would be very funny if it was neither of those, right? It could very well be neither of those, but I think I'm right, at least on one side of this thing. Pittsburgh offense, how are we feeling about them?
First thought was I don't really want to have any Pittsburgh, but they're pretty cheap. They're pretty easy to get to. They've been inconsistent all year, but they've been able to put up some pretty good ceiling games. Cruz, Gonzalez, Reynolds, none. You don't have to break the bank to get any of them. I think I would prefer a mini stack, just play Cruz and Reynolds, 4,300 and 4,100 a piece for them. I think they make a great mini stack. Probably like that better than the full stack, but I have nothing against playing some Sawinski in there. And like, if you get Tellez in the lineup, like all of a sudden that becomes a team that's really cheap to stack for that double pay up pitching option that we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that call, TJ. And that's something I wanted to mention, but you've already covered it now. I think they're just a little bit too cheap facing a pitcher that's unproven in the majors, right? Like, you're getting a handful of guys like Cruz. You talk about Cruz. You talk about Reynolds. I'm even going to throw Yasmani Grandal in there at 3,100 at catcher, just another cheap piece to add in. You talk about Rowdy Tellez. Brian Hayes, he's 3,600, and I know he hasn't been just smashing the ball recently, but this guy's still a Major League Baseball player that has some upside. I'm with you. I think this team is a little bit too cheap, and I think they're definitely able to put up some runs if Mr. Spires comes out and doesn't have a really good game. All right, moving right along, TJ, to our next game. We've got San Diego. We've got the Philadelphia Phillies. In this game, TJ, we've got Randy Vasquez, Carlos Sanchez. Carlos Sanchez is a minus 165 favorite. That's on BetMGM. He's around minus 170. Most places getting minus 165 there. How are we feeling about Randy Vasquez going into Philly? TJ, this feels like a face spot for me. How about you?
Yeah, 0% Randy Vasquez for me. Not going to be able to get there.
Okay, good. That's going to be TJ's version of the quick no. On the other side, we've got Sanchez at 8,200. And I'm not really thrilled about Sanchez either here, TJ. We've seen the San Diego offense. They're slowly but surely working themselves away from being gutless. And they're a low strikeout team anyway. This is a ballpark upgrade for them, TJ, hitting in Philly. I don't want to play Carlos Sanchez today. How are you feeling about Sanchez at 8,200?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be out on Christopher Sanchez as well. I think he's a perfectly fine real-life pitcher, but not a high enough strikeout spot for me to have interest in Sanchez in this spot.
Okay, so we're not playing either of the pitchers in this game, or at least as of right now, we're not, unless both of these teams just rolled out. a double-A lineup, but I don't think that's going to be the case. How are we feeling? I was saying Christopher. I meant Carlos. No, I was saying Carlos. I meant Christopher.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Sanchez. I did not mean to mess up your first name. San Diego. I actually have some interest in San Diego today. What are you thinking with the San Diego Padres today, TJ?
Not really. Like, you can always play Fernando Tatis. Manny Machado is too cheap to be facing a lefty, and then maybe Profar to finish off a mini stack, a 3-man. But that would basically be the extent of my interest. They're just too expensive for the full stack. Like, I don't want to pay that price tag for Kim unless he's batting 4th or 5th or 1st or 2nd, And so I don't think I'm going to be getting to the Padres as a full stack, maybe just as a mini stack.
Okay. I think we're on opposite ends of the spectrum on San Diego today. I think you can get creative with them. Like, yeah, I know Tatis is expensive and Machado's 49. Profar's 41 though, and if you throw an average here, Campusano, he's 3,300. I think it just helps open it up a little bit. I'm expecting them to get to Sanchez today and score a few runs. So they're going to ballpark shift or ballpark upgrade. Let's call it a ballpark upgrade, if you will. On the other side, we got the Philadelphia Phillies.
If you already have it up, then never mind. But off the top of your head, what do you think Christopher Sanchez's ground ball rate is, ground ball percentages this year?
I don't have it up. Let me guess 38%.
60.6%. We're looking at a Framber Valdez type of season here for Christopher Sanchez. Like, I don't want to play him against
Interesting.
San Diego because I think they're too good, but I just think that ground ball rate is too good to stack against too.
I get it. Look, man, I'm borderline pod committed to playing San Diego. I feel like I play them in every reasonable spot. And boy, I mean, just don't fail me now. But on the other side, I think we'll both agree, TJ. The Phillies are a spot we can for sure attack against Mr. Vasquez today.
Yeah, I think the Phillies are one of the top offenses on the slate. Vasquez just doesn't strike anybody out. Strikeouts are the way to beat the Phillies. And so I'm really looking forward to getting to a lot of Kyle Schwarber, a lot of Bryce Harper, mix in some Castellanos, Bohm, Stott, Sosa, Marsh, Dahl. I'll play all of these guys top to bottom. The lefties are my preference, but I have no issue getting to any of them in a stack. I think Schwarber and Harper are two of the best one-offs on the slate, and I really like this full stack as well.
Yeah, man. Nothing to add there, TJ. I agree with you. Philly's one of the top stacks of the day, in my opinion. Love Dahl at 3K for what it's worth. All right, we're moving right along, TJ. We're coming home to TJ's land here. It's Boston. It's Toronto. We've got the Toronto Blue Jays at home. Folks, Yusei Kikuchi's on the mound. He is a left-handed pitcher facing the Boston Red Sox. We've got Nick Pivetta on the other side. Just got blown up in a start. His previous start, I think it was, Nick Pivetta got touched up quite a bit. TJ, what are we doing with a high strikeout Nick Pivetta against a low strikeout Toronto offense?
I think if you're playing a lot of lineups, he absolutely has to be in the pool. Even though Toronto's offense has been disappointing this year, like you said, they still don't strike out. And so they're not a great fantasy matchup to target people against. But Pivetta is a high strikeout pitcher, and at only 8,300, I think he's got the ceiling, of course. And so I'm going to be having Pivetta in the pool. I would prefer him over Sanchez, just a ceiling. I would say he's got a much higher ceiling than Sanchez, probably a lower floor too, though. This game is really interesting because I think either of these pitchers could put up 5 points or 25.
Yep, absolutely. Love that call. I'm with you on Pivetta. It is an upside spot. I do want to see what the field is on him today, TJ. I feel like on this slate, like when you look at the distribution of pitching, I feel like Pivetta and Kikuchi are going to be kind of the next tier down that guys want to play. Maybe people play John Gray because of the name value at 7,900 and him being under 8K. I don't feel like people are going to play a whole lot of the cheap pitching today for what it's worth. I think Gray, Fried, Skeens, Kikuchi, I think those four guys are going to soak up a lot of the ownership. And I think that's the right call today, TJ. So let's move over to Kikuchi. And I'm not sure if I mentioned – But Kikuchi is a 125 favorite for those of you that – I don't think I mentioned that to you, so I want to clean that up. Kikuchi is a minus 125 favorite today, facing off against Boston. I think Kikuchi is one of the best tournament pitchers on the slate, TJ, because lefties against Boston have had their lunch. Righties, now they got a lot of these guys coming back. They've been giving righties – they can give righties some problems, as we saw when they faced Aaron Nola. Like, if you're not going to be strong against lefties, they're going to eat you alive if you're just kind of trying to pound the zone. But against left-handed pitching, TJ, the strikeouts with this Boston offense have been through the roof. At 8,600, I love Kikuchi today. And I think we could see a really nice strikeout game from him. How are you feeling about Yusei Kikuchi?
Yeah, I think he is one of the top tournament pitchers on the slate as well. It's going to depend a lot on the lineup that we get, how left-handed heavy it is, because Tyler O'Neill, regardless, is probably the only right-handed bat we're worried about. But the more righties we get, the more it does limit his strikeout upside too. This is a guy that's striking out 22% of righties this year, 29% of lefties. And we've seen a lot of times, just out of necessity, Boston rolls out 5, 6, 7 lefties, even when facing a left-handed pitcher. So it's going to be lineup dependent for me how much I like him. But if we see at least 5 lefties, he's going to be among my very top pitchers on the slate, maybe one of my favorites to go with, right behind Skeens.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, one of their best hitters outside of O'Neill, which is Rafael Devers, is the lefty, TJ. And if I'm not mistaken, right off the top of my head, I'm going with a 32% K rate left-handed pitching this season. I think it's somewhere around there. I don't have that one right in front of me, but if it's not 32, it's close. It's not like 22%. He's pretty
32.9%. So
yeah,
you priced this
that's
right
what I'm
stick.
saying.
You priced this right at it. You didn't go over. You win both showcase showdowns. Great work.
Yes, sir. Showcase showdowns. Don't you love those showcase showdowns? Incredible. The price was right. So one of their best left-handed hitters is striking out a ton of lefties also. So really like you said Kikuchi today. If I'm hearing you correctly, TJ, it sounds like Boston's lineup dependent situation. Than maybe any other team we're going to get on the slate because of the Kikuchi effect. If they roll out these lefties, in terms of an offensive perspective, how much Boston are you planning on playing today?
Probably not very much, but if they go very right-handed heavy, they're also going to be super cheap. Like, I never really want to play Bobby Dahlbeck, but he can hit a home run anytime he connects to it. Rafaela is only 3,200. You get Connor Wong, you get Ref Snyder, you get O'Neill. It's okay. It's just fine. It's cheap, but I don't really like it.
Hey, folks, I'm not sure if we lost TJ. TJ, are you there?
I'm still here. Can you hear me? So it seems
as though, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay, good. We're good.
Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, we're good. So, I'm with you. If they go right-handed heavy somehow, then Kikuchi may get bumped down my list a little bit, but I'm with you. I do. If they're cheap, then I think they will be in consideration. We talked about Pivetta being a high upside play, but he is facing a Toronto offense that's a pretty low strikeout team. How do you feel about this offense against Pivetta? I actually think Pivetta picks up some strikeouts today, for what it's worth. I'm just hoping BABIP is in his favor because that's what he's going to need. How are we feeling about the Blue Jays overall?
I don't think I want to play them, but you just kind of have to play both sides anytime Nick Pivetta is pitching. This is a guy that's a right-handed bats, and we're not going to see many big lefties. Like Kiermaier may be there, but other than that, it's just going to be, Varsho. And Horowitz. So they just got rid of Vogelbach. And so it's going to be mostly righties. He's got a 32.3% K rate to righties. Only 4% walk rate. He's putting the ball in the strike zone. But a 221 ISO, he's getting hit hard. He's not getting any ground balls. It's a matchup that kind of profiles perfectly for the Blue Jays. They don't strike out, but they get a ton of ground balls. This is a massive fly ball line drive pitcher, but who strikes guys out. Anytime people make contact, it usually goes in the air and a long way. So it's actually kind of a perfect matchup for the Blue Jays if it's going to be ownership dependent. If the Blue Jays are no one's playing them, I will play the Blue Jays. If the Blue Jays end up somewhat chalky, I'm going to be out. But this feels like a great day to bet on Vlad to hit a home run.
Okay. So TJ, listeners, viewers, friends, comrades, brothers in arms, sisters in arms, family members, acquaintances. Let me give you this will be our one rabbit hole for this podcast, TJ. For whatever reason, Brady Singer is someone that I do not get right and have not gotten right this season. Let me say this season, TJ. He's like my kryptonite. Let me explain why. I'm going somewhere with this, by the way, folks. I am going somewhere with this. I take Brady Singer over 4.5 strikeouts against a bad team. He gives up 10 runs in 2 innings. Does not hit my strikeout. I take Brady Singer under 4.5 strikeouts against a good team, and he gets 10. I take Brady Singer under pitching outs against a really good team, TJ. He goes 6 innings. I take Brady Singer over 15.5 pitching outs against the bad team. he goes 15 innings, 15 pitching outs or less. For those of you that don't know, Brady Singer faced the Dodgers today, and he went 6 innings of baseball. I don't get him right. Why have we gone all the way around the mulberry bush to give you a fascinating story about Brady Singer? Well, the offense that I never get right is the Toronto Blue Jays. It doesn't matter how good of a spot it is or how bad of a spot it is, TJ. They never produce when I click the Toronto Blue Jays button. I can't explain it. I don't know what it is. Folks, TJ has convinced me very eloquently, if you will, that the Toronto Blue Jays are a team that we need to include in our lineups because of the massive fly balls of Nick Pivetta. And guess what, folks, listeners, family, friends, acquaintances, I agree. I also know, TJ, as soon as I click these buttons, Nick Pivetta is going to get 10 strikeouts today. It is
gotta play him too then. Gotta play him too.
Oh, gosh. So for those of you that are listening, Chief here is playing Nick Pivetta. He's also playing the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't see how we get either side of this wrong or right. In my luck with the Toronto Blue Jays, I could get this right and still be very wrong. Take that for what you will. TJ, are we done with the Boston-Toronto game?
Yes, sir. I think we are. Tyler O'Neill, a pretty strong one-off. Other than that, I'm not touching Boston.
Okay, there we go. Next up on the list, we have the Detroit Tigers coming into Truist Park, folks. My beloved Atlanta Braves will be playing baseball, and we have started to heat up. Now, heat up means scoring runs, not winning all the games. So I just want to make that clear. But I'll be fine with them scoring. If they start scoring, they will start winning. One of my favorite pitchers on the day, we've got Max Fried facing off. He's going against Reese Olson. Max Fried, roughly, TJ, a minus 220 favorite across the board, roughly, on almost every major sports book. And I think Max Fried is one of the best pitchers of the day, but we'll save that for your particular comment. Reese Olson, 7K, facing the Atlanta Braves, minus Ronald Acuna, but now we've got Riley back, who's been back a few weeks, right? And we've got Sean Murphy back in the fold, and I think the Braves are starting to turn a little corner here. TJ, Reese Olson, what are we doing?
Believe it or not, Reese Olson is actually the cheap pitcher I would take a shot on, maybe, if I were going to take a shot on a cheap pitcher today. But I don't really like him either. I like the Braves side a lot better. Olson just is a guy that has shown some strikeout upside, and the Braves strike out a lot. And so it's kind of like if they put up 8 runs, you're screwed. If they don't, there's a pretty good chance the pitcher did really well because they probably struck out quite a bit too. And so Olson would be the cheapie I would take a shot on if I were taking a shot on a cheapie. I like him better than, Paxton, Quantrill, Garrett, Rodriguez, Peterson, probably everybody but Spires/Spears, the guy whose last name we don't know. I would probably put Olson second behind him. But it's like we've kind of alluded to throughout. This definitely seems like a pay up for pitching day.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any reason for us to go down too much today, TJ. I'm personally going to fade Reese Olson. That's the fan in me, and also I just think the upper tier pitchers are so much better. Speaking of one of those upper tier pitchers, we've got Max Fried, who's going to be facing off with the Detroit Tigers. Had a rough outing against Baltimore, but I'm going to just let that be a blip on the radar. I think he dominates Detroit here today. We've seen him eat through a lot of innings. So what are you doing with Max Fried? I plan to be loading up today.
I think he falls third for me behind Sonny Gray and Paul Skeens, but that's not an insult. That doesn't mean I don't like them. Those guys are just in some pretty great spots today too. And so Max Fried, I think, is in a great spot, but I would rank him third behind those two. Detroit does strike out a lot, but they've also been heating up lately. Like Detroit's been playing some really good offensive baseball as of late. And so I don't love them, Sorry, I don't love the idea of playing them. I'm not going to be playing any Detroit, but it's maybe enough to put what's his face Fried third on my list of the top great pitchers today.
Freed's definitely third for me, TJ. He's not ahead of definitely not ahead of Schemes, definitely not ahead of Gray. But I do think he needs to be played. Atlanta offense, TJ. I think this is one of the best spots of the day for offense. I think others are going to agree by the time this slate kicks off, or not by the time the slate kicks off. They may just agree in general, but I do like the Braves here, TJ. They are expensive in certain spots. Like Ozuna's expensive, Olsen is semi-expensive, Riley is semi-expensive, Albie is expensive. What would you like to do with the Braves? I definitely want to play them.
Yeah, I want to play them as well. I'll probably. It's like you said, like you have to be strategic with your Brave stack. They're only expensive if you want to stack the top 5 in their order, as long as you're mixing in whoever their catcher is, whether it be d'Arnaud or Murphy. Mix in your Duvals, your Arcias, your Kalaniks. Then they do get a lot cheaper. If Ramon Laureano happens to be in the lineup, he's only $2,800. Not that he has been anything in the last few years, but still a cheap guy that you could play in your Brave stacks. Olsen probably is my favorite one here at $5,300. Ozuna is finally at the price that he deserves to be. And so, yeah, they're tough to get the spend ups for, but I think you can make the stack work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really the case, TJ. I think with all the big teams, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Braves, Houston, when they're all the way healthy and all the way right, hitting well, those top bats are always expensive. Then you've got to mix in some of these other guys. So, and I definitely think you can do that. Like Harris is not Harris, Duvall is 3,700. Like, Kalenic is 3,200. I know Kalenic's typically, has been very strikeout prone, but there's some power there. He's had a really nice 2-game stretch here. So you mix in a couple of 3K guys, and suddenly that 5K guy doesn't feel so bad, TJ. So I'm with you with that on the Braves. Love the Braves against Olsen today. Moving right along, folks. We've got the San Francisco Giants heading into Wrigley.
I gotta shout out Red. Sorry, I don't know how to say the name, but Red Sick or Red Cycle maybe Sports. Spires rhymes with pliers, so he's helping us out. It is pronounced Spires.
All right. So I think we said Spires or Spears, right? So we were right. I figured it was one of those. Thank you, my friend, for clearing that up. Spires is who will be pitching for Cincinnati. Here we go. We've got Assad. We've got Hicks. Assad is at home. Hicks is on the road, TJ. And we've got Assad as a minus 125 favorite across the board on most sites. At BetMGM, he is a minus 120 favorite here. How are you feeling about Hicks on the road facing off with the Cubs?
It's going to depend so much on what the wind is doing. This one is I believe 9.5 favorite or 9 favorite right now, depending on where you look. And so if the wind is going to be blowing out, I like both of these offenses. If the wind is going to be blowing in, I don't like either of these offenses. I know I'm not going to play the pitchers. I kind of just want to treat this game as if it's not on the slate. But I'm not going to be playing any Assad. I'm not going to be playing any Hicks. Sorry, I know I got ahead of myself there.
Yeah, it's all good. I don't think I plan on playing Hicks today either. I just don't like the upside, TJ. Like, he is a guy that, typically goes 5 innings, maybe a little more, but isn't going to clear 6 every game.
The other thing too is no worries. I'll step in mid yawn from you there, steal the thunder. The other thing with Hicks too is just like he's going in such a if he's pitching in San Francisco, I like playing him, but pitching in a place like Wrigley, unless that wind is blowing way in, I just don't really think, like you said, that upside is going to be there.
Yeah, same here. Going over to Assad, I'm going to agree with that. We'll go over to Assad. Assad, man, his upside has been tempered a little bit too, TJ. Now, the difference is he's had the strikeouts, but recently he's just been getting knocked around. So that's very concerning for me. With him being 8K when we already have some top tier pitching, I don't feel like we need to risk it with Javier Assad today. I think we're fine not playing him at 8K and just spending up for Fried, Gray, Paul Skeens. I think that tier is far and away the better option than playing an 8K guy. I just go down to Spires before I play the side today, TJ. That's my read. How are you feeling about Javier Assad?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think maybe if you're playing 150 lineups, you could consider him, but I think that win's going to be closer to blowing out. And so I don't think we're going to be playing any Assad.
All right. Sounds good. San Francisco offense versus Assad. TJ, anything standing out for you there?
No, not really. I don't really like targeting people against Assad either. But again, it's going to depend on the wind. This feels like a game I would love to just not be on the slate. Like I don't really like playing guys against these pitchers. I don't really like playing pitchers against these offenses. But if we get a wind blowing out, yes, I will stack the offenses. And that's San Francisco included.
Sounds good. I do think, maybe you could play a Conforto here. Like maybe you could play a Soler, but I'm not rushing to stack up San Francisco for what it's worth. I do think I have a little bit more interest in the Cubs maybe than you do. How are you feeling about the Cubs? And then I'll come in and share some thoughts.
Yeah, I don't mind them. Again, it'll be very wind dependent for me, but I like the overall upside, just not in love with the prices of these guys. But like Bellinger, Happ, Morel probably lead the group that I would want to target the most.
Yeah, for sure. Like those guys, definitely with Bellinger, you've got Horner there at 4,100, Morel at 46. Dansby Swanson, 3,600, TJ. I mean, he's been in this 3K range for a while here, but I still think this is a guy that's still a pretty good hitter generally. This season hasn't been the best, obviously, but at 3,600, I'm okay rolling the dice in this stack. And then, of course, you got my boy Seiya Suzuki, who's been hitting well this season also. So I think the Cubs have some interesting pieces. They've been a little cold, but I still think there's enough offense here to get it done if Hicks isn't having his best day. Moving right along, we've got the New York Mets. We've got the Texas Rangers. Mets heading into Texas. We've got Peterson. We've got Gray. And we're looking here, and Gray is also, TJ, around a minus 120 favorite at home. How are we feeling about David Peterson facing the Texas Rangers?
Yeah, I don't think I got to get there. He just hasn't gone above 90 pitches yet here since returning, and he is very cheap. But I don't like taking pitchers against Texas either, so I just don't think we need David Peterson.
Yep, I'm not playing Peterson. He gets a quick no from me. John Gray facing the New York Mets. Mets pretty low strikeout offense in general. John Gray, typically a guy that is serviceable, TJ. And I use that term carefully there because John Gray is typically pretty solid, but I don't know about this spot against the Mets. I mean, things are going to have to go really well for him, I think, to have a good game. He's 7,900 though, which isn't overly expensive. How are you feeling about John Gray?
No, I need him to get that pitch count up a little bit higher. Returning from the injured list, he only got up to 65 pitches his last game. Maybe we see him 80, but that's not enough. I need John Gray at full speed before I'm playing him.
Yep, and I still don't think he's all the way back either. These pitchers have had some weird and interesting injuries this season, TJ. A lot of guys went down, especially the Houston pitching staff. Feels like most of their pitching staff has gone down for the year. I know we're talking about the Rangers, but I just mentioned them because of Gray's been on the injured list, I think, a couple times this season. And by list, I mean he's been hurt, been out a game or two, and come back. I feel like this is the second or third stint with the injury that's held him back. All right, TJ, we talked about the fact that Gray is just coming back. Pitch count is a little low. We know the Texas bullpen has not been stellar this season. How are we feeling about the Mets for offense out in Texas?
Yeah, I think the Mets are totally fine. Not a top tier, high end, super high upside like the Phillies today. But I think the Mets are totally fine. I don't mind them one bit. Pete Alonso would be the top option, Francisco Lindor and Nimmo behind them. But the nice thing about this offense is Alonso's the most expensive bat at $5K. You can get good, legit stars in Alonso and Lindor, and actually Nimmo, and Marte, who have been hitting the ball phenomenal. And you know what? Martinez has too. They're a tough team to stack because we want to play 3 outfielders, but they're a pretty darn good team as well. So I don't mind stacking up the Mets at all.
Yep, I think the Mets are middle of the road. I'm not going to get into adding too many things outside of what you said, but I do think as a result, I think they're okay on this slate. As much as we like the pitching, there are a couple offenses we just threw away anyway, TJ. So I'm perfectly fine with the Mets. We're coming to the other side here with Texas. Texas facing Mr. Peterson. We do have Corey Seager back. It is lefty-lefty. Corey Seager's another one of those bats this season, TJ, who against left-handed pitching has not hit left-handed pitching well this season. If I'm not mistaken, he was somewhere near 30% in terms of K rate, or at least the high 20s. Now that may have turned a little bit over the past, month or so, but generally speaking, one of their best bats hasn't been as good against left-handed pitching. Neither here nor there. They still got some other guys like Simeon and Garcia that can just punish left-handed pitching. How are we feeling about Texas overall?
I think they are, just probably a little bit above where I'd put the Mets against David Peterson. Kind of the same tier, a tier 3 today. Yeah. If we were doing the Grinders live tiers, like a low tier 2, a high tier 3, somewhere in there. I think the lefty is just going to lower Seager's ownership, and Peterson's probably not going to be in there all that long, so I don't mind getting him in there anyways. Wyatt Langford has been playing much better as of late, and he's still really cheap. Yeah. So this is a team that you can stack up still fairly easily and cheaply due to all their injuries.
Yeah, man, and love the call on Langford. He's 3,300, by the way, folks. We may hear that game again. Moving right along, we've got the Dodgers. We've got Colorado. TJ, is this what the people have been waiting for? Dodgers headed into Coors to face off today. This is going to be an interesting spot. We've got James Paxton. We've got Cal Quantrill. James Paxton, a minus 180 favorite, folks. Guess what? This isn't because his name is James Paxton. It's because he has on a Dodgers uniform facing the Rockies. TJ, what are we doing with James Paxton today?
Okay, we're not playing James Paxton. So we're not playing James Paxton. We're not playing Cal Quantrill.
There we go. Offense, TJ. Dodgers in Coors facing Cal Quantrill, who's been a bit of a magician in a few of these starts down the stretch this season, TJ. Started out rough and then kind of climbed back on the train and had some good starts in between here, but it's a high-powered offense. We do know that Mookie Betts, TJ, did fracture his hand, and so he's going to be out for a bit here. They said it will not require surgery, but he will not be suiting up for a little while. That brings this offense, sets this offense back just a touch. In my opinion, TJ, this guy was the table setter. This is a guy that doesn't strike out a ton. This is a guy that can steal bases. So losing Mookie Betts out of this lineup definitely hurts them, but I don't know if it's enough to hurt them against Cal Quantrill. Dodgers bats. Talk to me.
We have never seen prices like this yet this year. I definitely would have thought Aaron Judge would have been the first player to get over 7K. Turns out it's Shohei Ohtani. Freeman 6'3", Hernandez at 6, Smith at 5'8". Their studs are tough to get to. You can't play all of them. You can pick one, especially because we're wanting to pay up at pitching today. But without Betts, that probably means we're going to get some more cheapies in that lineup. And they're not as cheap as we're used to getting them, but Pages, Rojas, Hayward, Lux, Biggio, Hernandez, All these guys are 4.3 or below. It's Coors and it's Cointreau. I think if we're not going to see super high ownership on the back half of their lineup, I'm going to load up. If they're all 20% plus owned, then I'll just fade this team.
Yeah, absolutely, TJ. You know my rule. I typically fade Coors. I'm going to tell everybody right now that's listening, and you guys know my rule. I'm not fading Coors because I think the players are bad. I'm typically fading Coors because of the ownership. I think the Dodgers are going to be overowned today, TJ. I'm taking the fade. I'm going to live with it. If they score 28 runs, I lose. Today is my day, TJ, to work in, one of the things that I've done, throughout the years in the industry. I'm fading the Dodgers. Over to the Colorado Rockies. What are we doing with them against James Paxton?
I think the Rockies are probably my number 2 stack on the board today behind the Phillies. I love getting to the Phillies. I think the Rockies are going to be my second favorite. 4 tournaments today. They're not very expensive. You get Tovar for $5,200. Lefty against Paxton does not bother me because he's not striking anybody out. And so I'll play the righties. I'll play the lefties. It's going to be a lot dependent on the lineup. Brenton Doyle's injured right now. Diaz is on the IL. Bryant's on the IL. Bouchard's on the IL. Rogers is on the IL. We could end up seeing like multiple low 3K and upper 2K players. And so Colorado never picks up high ownership because they suck. It might be possible to fully stack Coors while playing 2 expensive pitchers today at not super high ownership. And so if that's the case, I'll definitely just do it.
All right. Sounds good. Moving right along. We've got Milwaukee. We've got the Angels. Folks, not only does this sound good, we have hit the last game of the night. We've got Rodriguez. We've got Soriano. Pretty much both guys, not really a real favorite here, TJ. Both guys around minus 105 to minus 108, 110 certain spots, no more than 115. Me personally, TJ, I'm not playing either one of these pitchers, so that's me. What are you doing?
I think Soriano is somewhat in play. I think he's in that same tier as you could take shots if you're playing lots of lineups as like a Reese Olson or a Javi Assad, but I'm not getting there either.
I just can't do it against Milwaukee. I just can't. That's all it is. It's basically the Milwaukee effect. He's going to see a lot of lefties today, so that's why I'm not playing him, TJ. Rodriguez, are you playing Rodriguez today at all?
No.
Okay, yeah, me either. Here we go. Let's talk about the bats. I do like Milwaukee today, TJ. I think Christian Yelich is a great play today, along with, some of these other lefties, and also not just the lefties. Don't forget about Adames. Don't forget about Gary Sanchez, who's going to be playing every day now with Contreras. I think Contreras was a little banged up, if I'm not mistaken. Getting evaluated for a concussion. I'm actually expecting him to not play in this game for what it's worth. I could be wrong, TJ. I think he sits out at least a game with this evaluation. We'll see what happens. But I think there's enough cheap pieces here to make it work. Rhys Hoskins still isn't too expensive. Bowers isn't expensive. So I really like Milwaukee. How are you feeling about the Brewers?
Yeah, I love them as well. I think they're in that same tier as the Mets, the Braves, the Rangers, but I might like them a little bit better than all of them. Soriano's not a big strikeout guy. They're cheap, and all of these guys should be moving up a lineup spot without Contreras likely to be in there. And so I'm with you. I do like this team quite a bit. I probably won't get a ton of Yelich, even though he has been fantastic, just because of that price. And I'll probably stack the 4K and below guys.
Okay, let's head to the other side. The LA Angels. I don't think I'm going to be loading up on the Angels, TJ, but I do think this is the day facing off against Carlos Rodriguez that we could pull together a few bats, possibly for some upside here. How are you feeling about the Angels?
The weirdest team in baseball. You got a $4,600 Kevin Pillar. This makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, Taylor Ward, Logan O'Hoppe, Joe Adell, Zach Neto has been heating up recently. I don't love them, but I think they're in play.
All right, folks, we have closed it out. That was Milwaukee. That was the Angels. We covered 9 games. It's time for one of our most fun parts of the pod, and that is the morning grind game. TJ, favorite pitcher under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts.
I will go Reese Olson.
All right, I am going to go with. Oh boy, this is rough. I'm going to go with Braxton Garrett, but I don't like it for what it's worth. All right. Pitcher over 8K to get less than 15 fantasy points. Who do we have?
Not many good options today, but I will go with Christopher Sanchez.
Yeah, I was going to go with Christopher Sanchez as well. I'm also going to go right on the nose with Javier Assad. TJ, favorite hitter under 5K to hit a home run. Who do we have? Under 6K to hit a home run. Who do we have?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give 2 for the people today because I'm feeling spicy. Kyle Schwarber, Vladimir Guerrero.
Yeah, I figured Kyle Schwarber was coming. I forgot about Vlad. I knew that guy. I knew he was one of your favorites. For me, in terms of under 6K, I'm going Christian Yelich today. TJ, favorite hitter under 4K to get 2 hits.
I'm going to go with Wyatt Langford.
Yeah, TJ, I said this earlier. I said Wyatt Langford, 3,300. That's a name that we may hear again. TJ, and we didn't say not in Coors, but we're going to specify not in Coors. I will say one of my favorite backs under 4K in Coors is probably Hayward. One of my favorite hitters not in Coors under 4K is probably Adam Duvall facing Reese Olson. Really like him today. TJ, any props, pick'ems, spreads, anything like that today before we close it out?
I think Detroit's money line is somewhat interesting just because Atlanta's dealing with so many injuries right now, and they are very, very hefty favorites. I think Detroit money line is an interesting shot to take.
Yeah, love that call today. I definitely think that's, like you said, with the injuries, I do think that's interesting as well. So here's the thing, TJ. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I do like this one. I'm going to go ahead and take Nick Pivetta at plus 108 here, the Boston money line at plus 108. If he's on, he's going to mow down this Toronto team. And just because I said that now, of course, Toronto's going to come out and score 10 runs, but that's the way it goes with those Blue Jays. I just don't get them right. Maybe my hometown friend here, TJ, can help me right the ship today. TJ, any other thoughts before we close it out?
No, sir. That's it from me. Happy Father's Day to all those hanging out and chat with us, all those listening to the pod in the morning. Hope everyone had a great weekend.
All right, folks, I'm Chief. That's been TJ. This has been the Morning Grind. Happy Father's Day to all, and to all, a good night. We'll see you tomorrow morning.